The sun was setting behind the tall glass buildings of the city. Golden light touched the windows of the Grand Solara Hotel, making the place look warm and inviting. The Grand Solara was famous for its beauty, its high-class service, and the important people who stayed there. The lobby was a wide-open space with marble floors, shining chandeliers, and tall plants in silver pots. Everything spoke of wealth and comfort. Inside the lobby, behind the polished reception desk, stood Claire Mason. She was the head receptionist and had worked in the hotel for 6 years. Claire was proud of her work and liked to think she could tell who belonged in a place like this and who did not. She wore a neat navy uniform, her hair tied back, and a polite but distant smile on her face. That evening, as the guests moved in and out, Claire noticed the front doors slide open. A young girl walked in, alone. She looked no more than 19. Her clothes were plain and worn. A faded backpack hung over one shoulder. Her shoes were scuffed. She looked around the lobby slowly, as if she had never been in a place like this before. Claire's eyes narrowed. In her years at the hotel, she had seen many people walk in without a booking, hoping to use the facilities or wander around. She decided at once that this girl must be one of them. Claire believed that the first rule of a good hotel was to protect its image. Guests paid for privacy and elegance, and it was her job to make sure nothing spoiled that image. The girl stepped closer to the reception desk. She moved quietly, but with a certain calmness, as if she was not in a hurry. She stopped in front of Claire and opened her mouth to speak. "Good evening," the girl said softly. But Claire interrupted her before she could finish. "I'm sorry," Claire said, keeping her tone polite but firm. "We do not allow visitors to stay in the lobby unless they have a booking. This is a private hotel." The girl blinked, surprised. "I am here to—" Claire shook her head. "If you need directions, there is a public information desk at the mall across the street. If you are looking for work, you can submit an application online, but you cannot stay here." The girl's expression did not change much. Her eyes stayed steady on Claire's face. She looked more thoughtful than upset. "I have a reason for being here," she said quietly. Claire sighed. She had dealt with many people who claimed to have a reason. Most of the time, it led to trouble. "I understand," Claire said, "but rules are rules. Please leave." The girl glanced around the lobby one more time. Her eyes lingered on the paintings on the walls, the golden light from the chandeliers, the guests laughing near the elevator. Then she looked back at Claire. "You are sure you want me to leave?" the girl asked. Claire kept her polite smile in place. "Yes, I am sure. I hope you understand." For a moment, the girl simply stood there, as if deciding something. Then she gave a small nod. "All right," she said. She turned and walked toward the doors. As the glass doors closed behind her, Claire felt a small sense of relief. She believed she had done the right thing. This was, after all, the Grand Solara Hotel. Only people who belonged here should be allowed to stay. What Claire did not notice was that the security camera above the reception desk had been watching the entire scene. In another part of the hotel, a tall man in a black suit was sitting in a private office, watching the live feed from the cameras. His eyes followed the girl as she walked away from the desk. He knew exactly who she was, and he knew that this was about to become a problem for Claire. Outside, the girl stood on the sidewalk for a moment. She looked up at the tall building, her eyes tracing the shining windows. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a key card with the hotel's logo on it. On the back, in neat writing, were the words, "Welcome to your new home." The girl smiled faintly, almost to herself. She put the key card back in the envelope and slid it into her backpack. She then walked around the corner of the building, disappearing from view. Back inside, Claire returned to her work, checking guest bookings and answering calls. She had no idea that the girl she had just sent away would soon return, and not as a stranger, but as someone with the power to change her career forever. Far above the lobby, on the top floor of the hotel, the man in the black suit picked up his phone. "She has arrived," he said into the receiver. "Yes, I saw what happened. No, she's not upset yet. But I think Claire is about to get a lesson she won't forget." The city lights began to flicker on outside, and the Grand Solara glowed against the darkening sky. For now, everything was calm, but the calm would not last. The evening grew busier in the Grand Solara Hotel. Guests returned from meetings and shopping, filling the lobby with voices and the sound of rolling suitcases. Claire stood behind the reception desk, answering questions and giving out room keys. She felt satisfied with how she had handled the earlier situation. In her mind, the poorly dressed girl had been out of place in such a fine hotel, and removing her quickly had been the right call. On the top floor, in the large private office that overlooked the city, Adrian Cole, the new owner of the hotel, sat behind a dark wooden desk. He had taken over the Grand Solara only 3 weeks ago, but few of the staff had met him. He preferred to observe quietly before making big changes. Adrian was tall, with sharp eyes and a calm way of speaking. In front of him, the security footage of the lobby replayed on a large monitor. He watched the moment when the young girl walked in, the short conversation with Claire, and the moment she left. Adrian leaned back in his chair. The girl in the footage was not just any guest. She was his daughter, Emily Cole. She had been away studying in another city and had only returned that day. Adrian had planned to surprise her by giving her a suite on the top floor. It was meant to be a welcome gift, a way of saying that the Grand Solara was now part of their family's future. Instead, Emily had been turned away at the front desk without a single chance to explain herself. Adrian understood that staff needed to follow rules, but he also knew that good service meant giving people a chance to speak. Claire had not done that. He picked up his phone and called the head of guest relations, a woman named Linda Harper. "Bring Claire Mason to my office," Adrian said. His tone was calm but firm. "Now." In the lobby, Claire was helping a businessman check in when Linda approached. Linda was always polite, but her voice carried weight. "Claire, the owner would like to see you in his office," she said. Claire froze for a moment. She had never met the new owner. She had heard rumors that he was strict and noticed every detail. She quickly finished with the guest, straightened her uniform, and followed Linda to the elevator. As they rose toward the top floor, Claire's mind raced. She tried to think if she had made any mistakes that day. Everything seemed fine. She decided it must be about a guest complaint or a schedule change. The elevator doors opened to a quiet hallway with soft carpet and gold-framed paintings. Linda led Claire to a large double door and knocked. From inside, a deep voice said, "Come in." Claire stepped into the office. The room was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the glowing city below. Adrian Cole stood near the desk, his hands in his pockets. He looked younger than Claire had expected, perhaps in his early 40s, but his presence was strong. "Ms. Mason," Adrian said, his voice calm. "Please sit." Claire sat in one of the leather chairs in front of the desk. Adrian pressed a button on a small remote, and the large monitor lit up. The screen showed the security footage from earlier that evening. Claire watched herself speaking to the young girl. She saw the way she had stopped the girl from finishing her sentence. She saw the way the girl had left without being allowed to explain. Adrian turned off the screen and looked at her. "Do you know who that young woman was?" he asked. Claire shook her head. "No, sir. She came in without a booking. I was following hotel policy." Adrian's expression stayed calm, but his eyes were sharp. "That young woman is Emily Cole. She is my daughter." Claire felt her heart drop. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. She thought of the polite way the girl had spoken. She thought of how she had not given her a chance. Adrian continued, "I understand the importance of rules, but I also believe in listening before deciding. That is how this hotel will be run from now on. Every person who walks through those doors will be treated with respect, whether they wear fine clothes or not." Claire nodded quickly. "I understand, sir. I truly did not know." Adrian studied her for a moment. "You will have a chance to make this right. Tomorrow evening, I want you to personally welcome Emily to the hotel and make sure she receives the best service. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Claire said. Adrian leaned back in his chair. "Good. You may go." Claire stood, her face warm with embarrassment, and walked out of the office. In the elevator, she took a deep breath. She knew she would have to face Emily again, but this time it would be different. She promised herself she would not make the same mistake twice. Meanwhile, in a small cafe a few streets away, Emily sat, by a window with a cup of tea. She had chosen not to go far after leaving the hotel. She knew her father would have seen the security footage. She guessed he might even call for her soon. Emily was not angry. She had grown up seeing how people judged others by appearances. She had worn her old travel clothes on purpose, curious to see how the staff would treat her. The hotel's beauty had impressed her, but the cold reception at the desk had been exactly the kind of test she had expected. She sipped her tea and glanced at her phone. A message from her father appeared on the screen. It read, "Come back. To the hotel tomorrow evening. You will be properly welcomed." Emily smiled and put the phone down. She looked forward to meeting the receptionist again, not to punish her, but to see if she could turn the moment into something better. The city outside the cafe window grew darker, and lights reflected on the wet pavement. Tomorrow, both Emily and Claire would step into the lobby of the Grand Solara, with very different thoughts. One was ready to forgive, the other was ready to make amends. The next day, the Grand Solara Hotel shone under the bright afternoon sun. Its tall glass walls reflected the blue sky. Inside, the lobby looked as perfect as always. The chandeliers sparkled. The marble floor had been polished that morning. Guests moved in and out, their luggage rolling across the smooth surface. Claire Mason arrived at work earlier than usual. She wanted everything to be perfect. She knew Emily Cole would be coming back that evening. Claire had spent the morning preparing a special welcome. She had ordered fresh flowers for the reception desk, arranged a tray of welcome drinks, and made sure the staff knew they were to treat the guest with extra care. Still, she could not shake the nervous feeling in her stomach. She kept replaying yesterday's scene in her mind. Each time she wished she had let Emily speak. Now she had a chance to make things right. Upstairs in his office, Adrian Cole was also preparing. He had told Emily to return at 6 in the evening. He wanted the staff and the atmosphere ready for her arrival. For him, this was not just about correcting a mistake. It was about showing the hotel's true values. At 5:30, Claire checked the lobby one last time. The flowers were in place. The drinks were ready. A smiling bellhop waited nearby to take the guests' luggage. Everything was in order. At 6 sharp, the glass doors slid open. Emily Cole stepped inside. She was dressed differently now. She wore a neat white blouse and dark trousers. Her hair was brushed and tied back. The same faded backpack hung over her shoulder, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Claire immediately stepped forward. Her voice was warm and respectful. "Good evening, Miss Cole. Welcome to the Grand Solara. We are honored to have you here." Emily looked at her calmly. "Good evening," she replied. Her tone was polite but measured. Claire continued. "On behalf of the staff, I want to apologize for how you were treated yesterday. I did not recognize you, and I made a mistake by not letting you explain. I hope you can forgive me." Emily studied her for a moment. "I accept your apology," she said. "But I do not want special treatment because of who I am. I want to see how your hotel treats every guest, no matter what they wear or where they come from." Claire nodded. "I understand. That is how it should be. I promise you will be treated with respect at all times." She handed Emily a key card in a small black envelope. "This is for your suite on the top floor. If you would like, I can have someone show you the way." Emily accepted the key card but shook her head. "I know the way. I will take a look around first." Claire stepped aside as Emily began walking through the lobby. She noticed the comfortable seating areas, the art on the walls, the guests chatting near the cafe. Everything looked warm and inviting. But Emily was not only looking at the beauty. She was watching the staff. She wanted to see if the smiles they gave her were genuine or if they were only there because her father owned the place. She stopped near the cafe. A waiter approached her and offered a menu. His tone was friendly, his manner respectful. Emily smiled and thanked him before moving on. She passed the concierge desk, where a young man greeted her cheerfully and asked if she needed help finding anything. She said she was fine and kept walking. From the reception desk, Claire watched carefully. She wanted Emily to see the hotel at its best. She also wanted her to feel welcome as a person, not just as the owner's daughter. After a short walk, Emily returned to the desk. "The hotel is beautiful," she said. "I can see why guests enjoy staying here." "Thank you," Claire replied. "We work hard to keep it that way." Emily glanced at the tray of welcome drinks. "Is one of those for me?" she asked with a small smile. Claire quickly picked up a glass of fresh fruit juice and handed it to her. "Yes, of course. Please enjoy." Emily took a sip. The cool sweetness was refreshing after her walk. She set the glass down and said, "I think I will go to my suite now. Thank you for the welcome." Claire signaled to the bellhop, but Emily waved it off. "I can carry my own bag," she said. She walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. As the doors closed, Claire felt a small sense of relief. Emily had accepted her apology. That was the first step. When Emily reached her suite, she stepped inside and looked around. The room was large and filled with soft light from the floor-to-ceiling windows. A vase of fresh flowers sat on the table. A handwritten note lay beside it. She picked up the note and read, "Welcome home, Emily. I hope you will enjoy your stay and see what the Grand Solara can truly be. Father." Emily set the note down and walked to the window. The city stretched out before her, glowing with evening lights. She felt a mix of emotions. She was proud of her father for building something so beautiful. She was also determined to make sure the hotel lived up to the standards he spoke about. Later that evening, Adrian visited her suite. "I see you met Claire again," he said. "Yes," Emily replied. "She apologized. I accepted." Adrian nodded. "Good. She will learn from this. But I am curious. What did you think of the staff today?" Emily thought for a moment. Most of them were kind and polite. "I think they treat guests well. But I want to stay here for a while and see how they act when they do not know they are being observed." Adrian smiled slightly. "That sounds like a plan." For the next few days, Emily would blend in with the other guests, watching and listening. She would test the service, not to catch anyone making mistakes, but to help the hotel grow stronger. Claire did not know this yet, but she was about to be part of that test. The Grand Solara stood tall in the night, its lights shining against the dark sky. Inside, the air was calm, but change was already moving through its halls. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the Grand Solara lobby. Guests were already checking out while others were arriving with fresh energy. The air smelled of coffee from the cafe and polished wood from the reception area. Emily Cole woke early in her suite. She had decided that today would be the first day of her quiet test. She wanted to see how the staff behaved when they thought she was just another guest. She left her hair loose, wore simple clothes, and carried only a small shoulder bag. She looked more like a student visiting the city than the daughter of the hotel's owner. Her plan was simple. She would move through different parts of the hotel, asking for help in small ways, and note how each staff member responded. She would also watch how they treated other guests, especially those who seemed less wealthy. When she stepped into the lobby, the reception desk was busy. Claire was speaking with a couple who seemed upset about a booking mix-up. Her voice was calm, and her hands moved quickly over the computer. Emily could see the effort she was putting into fixing the problem. Claire did not notice Emily standing a few steps away. Emily turned toward the cafe. She chose a seat near the corner, where she could see the main floor without being in the way. A young waiter came to her table. His smile was small but polite. "Good morning, miss. Would you like something to drink?" "Yes. A cup of tea, please," Emily said. The waiter brought her the tea quickly, placing it gently on the table. She thanked him, and he nodded before moving on to serve another guest. From her seat, Emily noticed a man in a worn jacket come into the cafe. He looked uncertain, as if he was not sure where to sit. The same waiter approached him, but his tone this time was less friendly. Emily could not hear the words, but she could see the way the waiter's smile faded and his body turned slightly away. The man was shown to a small table near the back, far from the windows. Emily made a note of it in her mind. The difference in treatment was small but clear. She stayed in the cafe for a while, sipping her tea, then left without making herself known. Her next stop was the concierge desk. A woman in a neat suit stood behind it, arranging some brochures. Emily approached with a question. "Excuse me, could you tell me about some local places to visit that are free or low cost?" she asked. The concierge's smile weakened just a little. "Of course," she said, but her tone was less warm than when she had been speaking earlier to a group of guests asking about expensive restaurants. She handed Emily a brochure that listed basic city landmarks and quickly looked back down at her work. Emily thanked her and walked away. She was not upset, but she could see the pattern forming. Some staff gave their best smiles only when they thought the guest could spend a lot of money. In the afternoon, Emily went to the pool area. A staff member was arranging towels and offering drinks to guests in lounge chairs. She watched as a family with 2 young children arrived. They were dressed in simple clothes, and their beach bag looked old. The staff member gave them towels, but did not offer drinks as he had for the other guests. The family seemed not to notice, but Emily did. She made another mental note. Later that day, Emily returned to her suite to write down what she had seen. She listed the moments of excellent service and the moments where small signs of unequal treatment had appeared. It was not something most guests would notice, but Emily had been raised in hotels and had learned to read the details. That evening, Adrian Cole came to visit her. "How was your day?" he asked. Emily invited him to sit. "I have some thoughts," she said. She told him about the cafe, the concierge desk, and the pool area. She described the difference in tone and attention. Adrian listened without interrupting. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "These are not large mistakes, but they can grow into bigger problems. A good hotel must make every guest feel valued. We will need to address this." Emily agreed. "I do not want to embarrass anyone, but I think they should be made aware. Sometimes people do not see their own habits until someone points them out." Adrian smiled slightly. "You sound like you are ready to help me run this place." Emily smiled back. "Maybe one day." The next morning, Emily decided to take her test further. She asked Claire for help booking a car to a nearby art museum. Claire treated her with the same polite attention she had given the wealthy guests. Emily noticed how Claire leaned forward to explain the different options, even suggesting a bus route for a cheaper choice. That moment gave Emily hope. Not all the staff had the habit of judging by appearance. While waiting for the car, Emily saw the man in the worn jacket from the cafe again. He was trying to speak to the concierge, but the concierge kept glancing past him to look at another group of guests. Emily walked over and spoke directly to the man. "Are you visiting the city?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "It is my first time here. I was hoping to find a small museum or a local market." Emily turned to the concierge. "Could you help him with that?" she asked in a steady tone. The concierge quickly adjusted her smile and pulled out a list of places. Emily watched her give better suggestions than she had the day before. The man thanked them both and walked away with a happier expression. Emily returned to her suite later, certain of two things. First, the Grand Solara was a beautiful hotel with many good people working in it. Second, it had small cracks that could be fixed before they became problems. She would speak with her father about a way to train the staff so that every guest, no matter how they looked, would feel welcome from the first moment they entered. Far below her suite, the lobby continued its usual rhythm of arrivals and departures. The chandeliers glowed warmly. The polished floor reflected the lights. But unseen to most, the daughter of the owner was walking those halls with watchful eyes, shaping the future of the Grand Solara one small moment at a time. 2 days later, the Grand Solara was as busy as ever. The sound of rolling suitcases and polite conversations filled the lobby. The smell of fresh flowers from the reception desk mixed with the warm aroma of coffee from the cafe. Claire was at her usual place behind the desk, handling check-ins with a calm smile. Emily Cole had spent the morning quietly observing the staff again. She had already spoken to her father about what she had noticed, and Adrian had agreed to let her take a more active role. Emily would not have an official title yet, but she would work with Claire to improve staff awareness. The plan was simple. Emily and Claire would discuss any situations they noticed during the day and talk about how to make every guest feel equally valued. Just before noon, Emily entered the lobby. She wore comfortable clothes and carried a small notebook. She approached the desk, and Claire greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Miss Cole," Claire said. Emily smiled. "Good morning. I think we should start today by looking at how staff handle busy moments. Sometimes that is when service slips without anyone noticing." Claire nodded. "I agree. We will keep watch during the lunch rush. That is usually our busiest time." They had just finished speaking when the glass doors opened and a group of guests entered. At the same time, a middle-aged man in a plain gray coat came in from the side entrance. His coat was damp from a light rain outside, and he carried an old leather bag. He walked toward the desk, but his steps were slow and he looked unsure of where to stand. A junior receptionist named Mark noticed the group of well-dressed guests and immediately hurried toward them, offering to help with their luggage and check-in. The man in the gray coat was left standing by the desk without being greeted. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly. She glanced at Claire, who had also seen it. Claire stepped forward quickly and greeted the man. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today?" The man seemed relieved. "I have a reservation," he said, pulling a folded paper from his bag. "It should be under the name Harris." Claire checked the computer and found his booking. She smiled politely. "Yes, Mr. Harris, we have your room ready. May I have your ID, please?" As Claire completed the check-in, Emily noticed something else. The group of well-dressed guests was getting impatient because Mark had taken them to the side counter, but was struggling to handle their multiple requests at once. They began to speak louder, and a few other guests started to watch. Emily stepped over and quietly asked, "Would you like me to get Claire to assist you?" One of the guests nodded quickly. "Yes, please. We have a meeting to get to." Emily signaled to Claire, who finished with Mr. Harris and then moved to help the group. Her calm, efficient manner soon settled the situation. But Emily could tell that if she had not stepped in, the scene might have turned into a public complaint. When things calmed down, Emily walked with Claire to a quiet corner near the lobby lounge. "This is exactly the kind of moment I wanted. To talk about Emily said. Busy times can make staff focus only on certain guests and overlook others. Claire agreed. Mark is new. He will need training to balance his attention better. We can talk to him after his shift. Before they could continue, a sudden commotion broke out near the cafe entrance. A young woman carrying a small child had tripped, and her handbag had spilled across the floor. Papers, a phone, and a few coins rolled in different directions. The child began to cry loudly. Several guests turned to look, but no staff moved to help immediately. Emily reacted first, hurrying to the woman and helping her pick up the scattered items. She spoke softly to the child, offering a gentle smile. Claire arrived seconds later with a chair for the woman to sit in and a glass of water from the cafe. The woman, still catching her breath, thanked them both. "I am so sorry," she said. "It has been a long morning." "There is no need to apologize," Emily replied. "You are safe now. If you need anything else, please let us know." Claire arranged for a bellhop to carry the woman's bag to her room, freeing her hands to hold her child. Within minutes, the situation was under control. The other guests returned to their conversations, but Emily knew they had seen the quick action. Moments like these shaped a hotel's reputation more than any advertisement. After the woman left, Adrian Cole appeared from the far end of the lobby. He had been meeting with a supplier in one of the side offices, but had seen the last part of the incident. "You both handled that well," Adrian said. "I was glad to see you act so quickly, but I also noticed the delay before any staff stepped in. That is something we must fix." Emily nodded. "We will make sure all staff know that helping guests in distress comes before anything else." Claire added, "I will speak with the cafe staff and the reception team today." Adrian looked pleased. "Good. Keep working together on this. A hotel is not only about rooms and decor. It is about how people feel when they walk in." For the rest of the afternoon, Emily and Claire quietly observed the staff and spoke to them during slower moments. They gave small pieces of advice, always with encouragement rather than criticism. By early evening, the mood in the lobby felt more alert. Staff began greeting every guest more consistently, no matter how busy they were or what the guest looked like. That night, as Emily walked back to her suite, she felt satisfied with the day's progress. She knew there was still work to do, but she could already see changes. Claire had proven to be a capable partner in this effort, and Emily respected her for admitting her earlier mistake and working hard to improve. From his office window, Adrian watched the city lights and thought about the future. The Grand Solera was strong, but it could become even greater if the lessons his daughter was teaching became part of its daily life. Down in the quiet lobby, the staff prepared for the night shift. The marble floors gleamed under the lights. The scent of flowers lingered in the air. And somewhere in the walls of the hotel, an unspoken promise seemed to grow, that every guest, no matter who they were, would be welcomed with the same care. It was late afternoon at the Grand Solera Hotel. The lobby was calm after the lunch rush, with soft music playing in the background and the scent of fresh lilies from the reception desk filling the air. Claire was reviewing the evening shift schedule while Emily sat nearby, quietly making notes in her small notebook. Their past few days of work had shown results. Staff members were greeting guests more consistently, and even during busy hours, no one was left unattended. Emily felt encouraged, but she knew real improvement would be tested only when something unexpected happened. That test arrived sooner than she thought. The glass doors opened, and a tall man in a simple dark coat stepped inside. His hair was silver, his posture straight, and his eyes sharp. He carried only a small leather case. He looked around the lobby with a calm but assessing gaze, as if judging every detail. Emily noticed him right away. He did not look like a regular tourist. Something about his manner suggested he was used to being in charge, but he had no entourage, no assistant, and no visible reservation papers. Claire stepped forward with her usual warm tone. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the Grand Solara. Do you have a booking with us?" The man's voice was deep and measured. "No. I am arriving without a reservation. I need a suite for 3 nights, starting now." Claire glanced at the booking screen. Almost all suites were taken due to a major business conference in the city. Only one was available, and it was reserved for emergencies or special guests. Before Claire could respond, a bellhop passing by froze for a moment when he saw the man. His eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing and continued walking. Emily caught the reaction. That meant the man was someone important. "I believe we can arrange that for you, sir," Claire said, keeping her voice steady. "May I have your name?" The man looked directly at her. "Daniel Everett." Emily's mind clicked. She knew that name. Daniel Everett was a well-known international investor, famous for visiting top hotels without warning to evaluate them for future partnerships. If treated well, he could bring prestige and investment. If treated poorly, he could damage a hotel's reputation with a single statement. Claire did not show any sign of recognition, but Emily guessed she must have realized it too. Claire began the check-in process while speaking politely about the hotel's facilities. Daniel listened without expression, but his sharp eyes scanned the lobby. Emily noticed how he looked at the staff's posture, how quickly guests were greeted, and even the cleanliness of the corners near the windows. He was watching everything. When the keycard was ready, Claire offered it with both hands and said, "We hope you enjoy your stay, Mr. Everett. If there is anything you need, please contact me directly at the reception desk." Daniel nodded, took the card, and started toward the elevator. But halfway there, he stopped and turned back. "Actually, I would like to sit in the cafe for a while before going to my room." Claire quickly offered to have someone bring his luggage upstairs, but Daniel declined. He placed his small case by his chair in the cafe and sat down. Emily decided to watch closely. The cafe waiter approached. This was the same young man Emily had seen earlier in the week, treating guests differently. She wondered how he would handle this guest. "Good afternoon, sir. Would you like to see the menu?" the waiter asked politely. Daniel nodded. The waiter handed him the menu and waited. "I will have a black coffee," Daniel said. "And whatever pastry you recommend." The waiter smiled slightly. "The almond tart is fresh today, sir. Shall I bring that?" "That will do," Daniel replied. Emily was relieved to see the waiter treating him with full attention. She stayed at her table, writing in her notebook, but she could see Daniel's eyes wandering around the cafe as he waited for his order. He was still observing. 10 minutes later, the coffee and pastry arrived. Daniel thanked the waiter, tasted the tart, and gave a small approving nod. When he finished, he stood and walked back toward the reception desk. Claire was speaking with another guest, but she quickly turned to greet him. "Everything to your liking so far, Mr. Everett?" she asked. "Pleasant enough," Daniel said, his tone neutral. "I will see more tonight." Emily and Claire exchanged a quick glance after he left for the elevator. They both understood that his real evaluation was still ahead. Later that evening, Adrian Cole returned to the hotel from a meeting. Emily met him in his office and explained the situation. "Daniel Everett is here," she said. Adrian raised his eyebrows. "Without notice?" "Yes," Emily replied. "He has taken one of the suites. He is watching everything closely." Adrian leaned back in his chair. "Then this is our chance to prove ourselves. We will treat him like any other guest, but with the highest level of service. No special tricks. If we are good enough for him without knowing he is important, we are good enough for anyone," Emily agreed. "I will keep observing. If I see anything slipping, I will let you know." That night, Daniel had dinner in the hotel's restaurant. The service was excellent, but Emily still noticed small details: a table not wiped as quickly as it should have been, a slightly delayed refill of water. Daniel noticed them too, though he said nothing. The next morning, Daniel left early for a meeting outside the hotel. While he was gone, Emily and Claire spoke to the restaurant staff about being faster with table service and more attentive with drink refills. They made the changes immediately. When Daniel returned in the afternoon, the difference was clear. The tables were spotless, the staff attentive, and the service quick. He did not comment, but Emily caught the brief look of approval in his eyes. That evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Emily felt confident. The Grand Solara had handled the unannounced guest well so far, but she knew the real test would come when Daniel checked out. His final words would reveal what he truly thought. The hotel glowed under the nightlights, its lobby calm yet alert. Somewhere in one of its suites, the most critical guest they had seen in months was preparing his quiet judgment. Emily was ready to see what the next day would bring. The morning of the grand reopening arrived with the city bathed in soft golden light. The towering hotel stood proudly against the skyline, its glass windows reflecting the brilliance of the sunrise. Workers moved swiftly at the entrance, arranging flower stands, polishing the floor, and preparing the red carpet for the important guests who would soon arrive. The large banner above the entrance read, "Welcome to the New Horizon Grand Hotel." Inside, the lobby looked nothing like it had weeks ago. The once dull tiles had been replaced with gleaming marble, and the walls were now decorated with beautiful art and warm lighting. New seating arrangements, fresh flowers, and the gentle music of a live pianist created an inviting atmosphere that spoke of elegance and comfort. Everything had been perfectly prepared under the careful supervision of the new management. Ava stood near the reception desk in her smart uniform. She looked calm, but her heart was racing. This day meant a lot to her, not just for the hotel, but for herself. She had been given a second chance, and she wanted to prove that she deserved it. She glanced toward the main doors every few seconds, making sure she was ready to greet the first guests. Mr. Harris, the new owner and father of Emma, entered the lobby wearing a sharp suit. His warm smile reassured everyone around him. Emma followed beside him, looking graceful and confident. She wore a light blue dress and carried herself like someone who belonged there, though she still had a humble kindness in her eyes. The two of them walked to the center of the lobby where the ribbon-cutting ceremony would soon take place. As the first wave of guests arrived, the lobby filled with chatter and laughter. Many were business leaders, journalists, and local dignitaries eager to see the transformation. Ava welcomed them one by one, her voice polite and her posture perfect. Some recognized her from before and were surprised by the professionalism she now displayed. The gossip about the girl who had been asked to leave had spread before, but now the story was changing before their eyes. Emma noticed the way Ava carried herself and felt proud. She knew it took courage to come back and work in the very place where she had been embarrassed. She gave her a small nod of encouragement, and Ava responded with a grateful smile. The ceremony began when Mr. Harris stepped forward with a pair of golden scissors. Cameras flashed as he gave a short speech about the hotel's future. He spoke about new beginnings, treating people with respect, and the value of hard work. Though he did not mention the incident that had brought them all to this moment, Ava understood the meaning behind his words. When the ribbon was cut, applause filled the air. Guests began exploring the hotel, guided by staff who showed them the newly renovated rooms, the upgraded dining areas, and the breathtaking rooftop garden. The rooftop, with its view of the entire city, quickly became the highlight for many. The gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers planted along the edges, and soft music played from hidden speakers. During the event, Ava was asked to assist several high-profile guests. She answered their questions, arranged special requests, and even solved a small problem when one guest misplaced his invitation. Her quick thinking and polite manner impressed everyone, and more than once she caught people glancing at her with respect. Later in the day, Mr. Harris called Ava over to the reception desk. He asked her to join him and Emma for a brief meeting in the manager's office. She followed them nervously, unsure of what was about to happen. Inside the office, Mr. Harris leaned against the desk, his arms crossed but his expression gentle. "Ava," he began, "today I watched you work. You were calm, efficient, and respectful to every person you met. I believe you've grown since the first time we met," Emma added, "and I'm glad you decided to come back. You've helped make today a success." Ava felt her chest tighten with emotion. "Thank you, sir. I know I made mistakes before, but I'm grateful for this chance. I'll keep doing my best." Mr. Harris smiled. "Then I'd like to offer you a promotion. Starting next month, you'll be the Assistant Guest Relations Manager. It's more responsibility, but I believe you're ready." Ava's eyes widened in surprise. She had not expected such a reward. She accepted the offer with a deep bow of her head, promising to work hard. After the meeting, she returned to the lobby with renewed confidence. She could feel that her life was changing, not just because of the job, but because she had learned something important, how one moment could test a person, and how a second chance could shape who they became. As evening approached, the last of the guests left, praising the hotel's beauty and service. The staff gathered in the lobby, tired but happy. Mr. Harris thanked them for their dedication, and Emma handed out small envelopes as tokens of appreciation. When the doors finally closed for the night, Ava took one last look at the grand lobby. The lights glowed softly, the flowers still fresh, and the air filled with a sense of promise. She knew tomorrow would bring more challenges, but now she faced them with her head held high. Outside, the city lights twinkled under the dark sky. The New Horizon Grand Hotel stood as a symbol of change and respect, a place where people were welcomed not for how they looked, but for who they were. And for Ava, it was proof that even the hardest moments could lead to something better when met with courage and humility.